Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into something you probably do, a dozen times a day without even thinking about it. We are going to look at the everyday convenience of link sharing and trace it all the way up to the massive, often hidden world of platform control. I know, it sounds like a pretty big leap, but trust me, the connection is literally sitting right there on your clipboard.
Okay, let's dive right into this. When you copy and paste a link, do you actually know exactly what you're sharing? Most of us just hit copy, slap it into a text message or an email, and don't give it a second thought. But as we'll see today, those invisible mechanics humming away behind that universally relatable act are actually shifting power away from us, the everyday users, and handing it straight over to the platforms.
Section 1. The basics of link sharing. Let's start by looking at how this is actually supposed to work. Take a totally classic example, like sharing a file in Google Drive. You select a file, click that little link icon, change the access to anyone with the link, copy it, and smash Ctrl-V to paste it. Bam! In this ideal scenario, you are in total control. You know exactly what the file is, the link itself clearly reflects that, and the person receiving it knows exactly where it leads. It's perfectly transparent, super efficient, and exactly what we all expect when we share information online.
Section 2. The Share.Google Tracking Controversy.
But what happens when platforms step in and intercept that link? Well, you get a totally different picture, and this brilliantly illustrates the contrast. On one hand, you have a normal, transparent URL. You can read exactly where it's going, and you know for a fact it's pointing to a specific article. But on the other hand, if you share a link directly from the Google app on an Android device, Google automatically intercepts it. They mask the destination behind this generic, random Share.Google link. The receiver has absolutely no idea what they're clicking on until the page actually loads. It's a fundamental shift from you sharing a destination to a platform acting as a masked middleman.
And as you might expect, people definitely noticed. Tech communities on Reddit were absolutely buzzing with frustration about this silent change. Take this quote from Reddit user Dorea55, who really hit the nail on the head. They basically pointed out the inconvenience and questioned why a company would do this, saying it felt like they were trying to sneak a Google account identifier into links. They called it, quote, very scummy, instead of just providing a normal link that tells you what you're actually clicking on. And they're right. This raised massive privacy flags. Because when a link routes through a platform's proprietary shortener, they can suddenly track the sharing activity, the clicks, and all that user behavior associated with the data.
And honestly, if the privacy concerns weren't enough, there's also this weird, clunky technical mystery going on behind the scenes. Developers started noticing that these Share.Google links were actually producing non-standard technical glitches. Basically, the domain returns an HTTP 200 code for a head request, but a 301 code for a GET request on the exact same URL. Now, without getting too deep into the coding weeds here, that is a direct violation of web standards, specifically RFC 9110. It just goes to show how messy and intrusive this interception mechanism really is when it's forced onto the basic architecture of the internet.
Section 3. Disabling automatic link shortening. So what can we do about it? Well, if you're using the Google app on Android, you can actually take back a sliver of control. Here is the specific workaround to permanently shut this intrusive feature off. First, just tap your Google app profile avatar up in the top right corner. Second, go to Settings. Third, scroll down and tap on Other Settings. And finally, look for the toggle that says Shorten Links to Web Pages and flip that firmly to Off. Just like that, your links will go back to their original, unmasked, and untracked forms. It's a nice little victory for transparency, right?
Section 4. Platform Limits and Content Censorship. Now, let's zoom out a bit. What happens when platforms go beyond just masking links and start blocking access entirely? You've probably run into a 429 too many requests error at some point, right? It happens when a user sends too many requests in a short time, which triggers these platform-enforced limits to stop performance issues. This is the literal manifestation of system-controlled access limits. You are no longer in control of the flow of information. The platform's infrastructure is stepping in and saying no. And as these platforms scale up, these automated boundaries become the primary mechanism for controlling what we can see and share.
To really grasp why these massive systems exist in the first place, just look at this number, 500. 500 hours of video are uploaded to YouTube every single minute. Every single minute. That is a completely staggering, almost incomprehensible volume of information. To manage a flow like that, human moderation is entirely impossible. Platforms absolutely require massive automated control systems to filter, track, and ultimately police the content flowing through their servers.
So the crucial point is that this infrastructure isn't just about managing server loads anymore. It is really about content governance. The sheer scale requires automated tracking, like YouTube's Content ID system for copyright, but it also scales all the way up to platform-wide censorship. This includes major actions like the removal of Russian state-funded channels and the removal of sanctioned Palestinian human rights NGOs. Let's look a bit closer at a couple of these macro-level actions to truly understand the scope.
This automated control absolutely operates on a geopolitical level. In 2022, following the invasion of Ukraine, YouTube globally removed RT and other Russian government-funded channels from its platform. It's a factual case study of a platform-level content ban, where access to a specific state's media apparatus was essentially severed for billions of users worldwide. The links to those videos just simply stopped working overnight.
We also see this exact same infrastructure utilized to comply with state sanctions. For example, in October 2025, to comply with U.S. government directives, YouTube removed roughly 700 videos and the accounts of prominent Palestinian human rights NGOs, which included groups like Al-Haq and the Al-Maizan Center. According to reports, these removals included documentation of the Gaza war and investigations into human rights abuses. So at a macro level, the platform is controlling the flow of information by entirely wiping out the destination of the link itself.
Which brings us to our final thought for this explainer. Is the convenience of platform sharing really worth the loss of control over the underlying information? Think about it. We started today with this incredibly simple, everyday act of copying a link on our phones, only to find it quietly masked by Google for tracking. And we followed that exact same thread all the way up to massive global platforms unilaterally wiping out news organizations and human rights archives to comply with geopolitics. It is all part of the exact same ecosystem of control. As we continue to rely so heavily on these platforms for our digital convenience, we really have to stop and ask ourselves what we are quietly trading away in return. Thanks so much for hanging out with me for this explainer, and hey, keep asking questions about the links you share.